got to be detailed, precise, and informed.
That's DPI.
I think we can safely move on to the NFC South.
I think we're going to go from a team that does not have a first-round pick to the 8th overall pick in the New Orleans Saints. This becomes a lot more predictable as to what can happen because there are only 7 guys that are going to be off the board. Who do you think is going to go to New Orleans?
Ugh, I'm seeing a lot of discourse around the Saints selection because at 8, undoubtedly there's going to be a blue chip guy available, probably one on both sides of the ball. So it's a matter of, if you're the Saints, who just finally were rescued from cap hell, congratulations to the Saints. But now they have to build on what was a fairly successful rebuilding year last year. They found a lot of guys that I think they can build around, one of which is their quarterback, Tyler Shuck. I think he showed a lot of flashes. And so I have them going offense, and I have them going playmaker to help out Tyler Shuck, and I have them going Carnell Tate, wide receiver out of Ohio State. He was one of the top 6 graded wide receivers according to PFF. I think he's one of the top 2. Him and Mekhi Lemon keep flip-flopping for number 1 receiver in the draft. And for me, Carnell Tate being 6'3", 195, he profiles a little bit like a CeeDee Lamb kind of guy. And so I think that that's a great spot for him to go top 10 and help out another successful Ohio State wide receiver in Chris Olave, right? The Saints have history of drafting Ohio State wide receivers and helping out their young quarterback. If you can build around Shuck, if you can give him playmakers, I think you could really succeed in what is a weak division. So go and get Tate. I think he's the best receiver in the draft. He has the highest upside. So that's my guy. But who do you have?
So I think your analysis is really good, especially given the Saints head coach. He was a former quarterback himself before transitioning into coaching. So he, of all people, knows the value of getting help for your quarterback. But I actually have defense going to New Orleans at the 8th overall pick. I've got Ruben Bain Jr. in edge out of Miami. There's a lot of mock drafts that predict Ruben Bain Jr. He is going to be a guy that, like you said, is going to be one of those blue chips that's available, and I think he's so good to pass up. I think there are a lot of wide receivers that you can go get in the 2nd round to be just as helpful for their quarterback, but there's only going to be one Ruben Bain, and if he's available at 8, I think you got to go get him.
I don't hate that, and I think there are three realistic choices for the Saints at this spot: Caleb Downs, Ruben Bain, and Carnell Tate. Those are the guys and maybe Mekhi Lemon if you put another wide receiver in the mix, because I think those are the top 2 wide receivers. So I would not hate Ruben Bain if he was selected here. I think teams are overthinking Ruben Bain, and he should go higher than 8. So getting him at 8 is a steal already. And I would say the same thing with Caleb Downs. So I think the Saints are in a really good spot to get a really good, talented player. I just think that with a quarterback like Shuck, they would be advised to build around him with elite wide receiver talent, whereas maybe they could select another edge like Zion Young out of Missouri or Gabe Yakus from Illinois, for example, in the 2nd round, get some edge talent. There's also some edge talent still available in free agency, like former Saint Cam Jordan, but maybe they're not going to go after that because they don't want to get back into cap hell again. But why do you think edge over receiver, I guess, is my question for you.
So what I'm seeing from PFF is that the Saints could really improve on the edge. Obviously, they have Cameron Jordan, but last year he got a 76 PFF grade. He got 24th among 115 edge rushers, which is good, but
they let him go.
They have on edge, yeah.
He's not on the team anymore, by the way.
That's what I'm saying. But okay, my ADHD brain went too fast for my mouth. Yes, that's what Cameron Jordan did. And now they don't even have that. Is kind of where I was going with that. So if the 24th best edge rusher was the best edge they had last year, and now they don't have that. Edge is where they need to build on.
I agree. They did bring in Chase Young, who's a veteran at that spot. And I think will be a productive player for them, especially with his 86 pass rush grade that he had last year for PFF. Allow me to read the wide receiver room that the Saints currently possess. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Chris Olave, everyone knows and loves. Bub Means, Mason Tipton, Jalen Polk, Ronnie Bell, Samori Toure, Kevin Austin Jr., Damian Alford, Elijah Cooks, and former Bronco Devon Vele. Wow. That's really bad. There's not one startable player outside of Chris Olave in that group, in my opinion, especially with a rookie quarterback. That's the reason I'm going Tate here.
By no means am I saying that they are set on wide receiver. But I think at pick 8, there's a lot they can do. And I think there's a lot of wide receivers that they can go get early in the second round. I think there's a possibility of Denzel Boston being available. I think Casey Conception from Texas A&M will certainly be available. And then there's a couple other SEC wide receivers that I think could also be available for them. I just think if you go get a wide receiver. Now, don't get me wrong, if Tate's available, I am not against them getting Tate. But if he happens to be gone, or even if Bain and Tate are both there, I think you can go get just as good of, or maybe not just as good. That's not what I mean. I think you can still go get a very solid, quality starter on day 1 wide receiver on day 2.
Yeah, and this
day
is
2
so
of the
hard
draft. That's the reason that I would pass at wide receiver at pick 8.
And this is really hard, obviously, because on Daniel Jeremiah's rankings, his NFL media 4.0, his versions of his rankings that he posted just a few days ago, he has Carnell Tate as the 6th best prospect in the draft this year, and Ruben Bain as the 7th best prospect in the end. So, we are right on the money. I feel like we're this close to knowing who the Saints would go. It's really a coin flip of whether they want to build around their young quarterback or pair Chase Young with Ruben Bain and have a more dynamic pass rush, because I do think that Ruben Bain will instantly elevate this room. And he's 21 years old. His future is really bright in the NFL. So certainly 2 great options. We're just kind of debating. It's not like either of us would even be wrong. I think that the Saints would be happy, thrilled. And Saints fans, please let us know in the comments if you wouldn't be happy and thrilled with either of these players. But I think you guys would enjoy if either one of these guys was taken, as long as they can find a way to address it later on. You brought up some alternatives like Denzel Boston. I brought up some alternatives like Zion Young. I think that there exists got 2 guys in the top 50 that can fill both of those needs for the Saints. It's just a matter of which one will they prioritize, right? But moving on to the next chronological pick here in the NFC South, we have a top 15 pick, number 15, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tyler, I'm going to let you take this one first. Who do you have these guys selecting?
I have another edge rusher that I want to discuss for this pick, and it's Akeem Mesidor, also from Miami. So I'm really high on these Miami edge rushers. There's a lot of talk about Tampa going to get that guy, Mel Kiper, and then a couple writers from NFL.com all like Akeem Mesidor as well. He's someone that I think is a perfect fit in Tampa Bay and a perfect fit for the 15th overall pick.
The reason I reacted like that is because I also have Akeem Mesidor going at 15. Right. So not a lot of debate here. He was the 3rd highest graded edge defender in college football last year, with a 90.5 run defense grade and a 91.7 pass rush grade. He's a complete 3-down player at 6'3", 280 pounds. The only downside, as I'm saying all this, I'm sure you, the viewer, and you, Tyler, are like, why isn't he going any earlier? because he is 24 years old, soon to be 25, I think, before the season starts. That is a big detractor because really you may only get 1 or 2 contracts out of this guy, but that's what makes him the perfect fit for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because they have a veteran quarterback in Baker Mayfield. They have an aging defensive core and offensive line core as well. So I think that it's the perfect time to get an impact player now who you don't have to worry about developing. You can really plug and play him day one. And he would also fix a problem that Tampa Bay has, which is they just don't have a dynamic enough pass rush. A lot of teams have that problem, as it seems. So getting a guy like Mesidor helps that a ton instantly.
And what's also really fun is if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, Akeem Mesidor is absolutely the name you need to remember, even if your team doesn't get them, because so many analysts are mocking them. We are mocking him to go there, and so is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A day ago from their website, Brianna Dix, a staff reporter for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, mocked Akeem Mesidor to their team. So that's absolutely the right answer, at least for this prediction.
Yeah, I mean, NFL.com mocks him like a ton of people. I think it's almost too perfect of a fit for them. And I really, really like him to Tampa Bay. I don't like him to Tampa Bay because he'll make the Bucs better and harder to beat. But I like him for Tampa Bay because he will help their team out a ton. But not a ton of debate there. I mean, is there anybody else that the Bucs could consider? Another edge rusher if Mesidor goes, at 12 to Dallas or something like that. Like, is there another guy that we could really consider them selecting?
One of the mock drafts that I looked at is CBS Sports, and CBS Sports mocked a guy with 2 impronounceable names, but it's an interior offensive line. It's a guard from Penn State. So there is a possibility of that as well. I don't know how to pronounce it.
It's Yoni Vega, right? Vega at the end?
Yeah.
I think he's the best guard in the draft. And so interior offensive lineman is one of those positions I think doesn't typically go in the top 20 unless they're really, really good. I think Tyler Booker, the best guard in the draft last year, went 12 to Dallas, something like that. So it's right around the spot where you could expect the best guard in the class to go. And offensive line was a problem for Tampa, mostly due to excessive injuries. So maybe shoring up that position with a quality starter and then allowing whoever else was there to go to depth wouldn't be a bad choice, but I still think that edge rusher is a bigger need for Tampa than guard. There's also
I absolutely agree. And I do apologize to the Nittany Lions fans for not even attempting to pronounce your best player's first or last name. But the Carolina Panthers are about 3 picks later. What are you thinking for the Carolina Panthers at pick 19? It's 4 picks later.
Yeah, math is hard. You're a history teacher, so that's okay. But
yeah, there's a reason I teach social studies, not math,
But 4 picks later, the Carolina Panthers also really do need an edge. And I think that could be an option, but I have them going a little flashier. This team went 8-9, and they hung tooth and nail with the LA Rams, who got all the way to the NFC Championship game last year. I mean, they blocked a punt late in that game. They had a real shot at it. And so I think the Panthers are going to go flashy. I have them drafting athletic freak Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon, I believe, because their current tight end room of Tommy Tremble and Sanders doesn't really blow me away. It doesn't make me feel any sort of way. Kenyon Sadiq, however, does because of his combine performance. Absolutely electric 4.3 speed at 6'3". So he kind of profiles as a little bit more of that Kyle Pitts archetype of tight end, fast, almost another receiver. But he also had a 43.5 vertical leap and 26 reps on the bench. So he's not like a slouch. I think that, he could be a capable blocker, but his next gen stats have him at a 99 athleticism score. That's ridiculous. I think that, make Bryce Young have a more dynamic offense and force people to cover a 4.3 speed tight end, and this team could maybe have a winning record next year.
I actually like your analysis. I think I might change. Nah, I don't want to agree with you again. I don't want to agree with you 2 episodes in a row, so I'm not going to change mine. I do like that analysis, though. I think he's a very good option. The guy that I went with is the same guy that CBS Sports mocked, and it's unfortunately Avion Terrell, the cornerback out of Clemson. I say unfortunately because I want him to be available at 29 for the Chiefs. That's who I really want. But I think he's a really good corner. I think there's a possibility of Avion Terrell going anywhere between 15 and 30. I think 15 is a very high. Someone reached for him, and 30 is he fell at his lowest. So I don't think he'll go at 15, but that's like his highest ceiling. I think he'll go somewhere in that late half of the draft. Just depends on who wants him. He's a very good, talented corner. The Panthers could definitely get some better corners as well. It's not their highest priority of a need, but Avion Terrell would make that Panthers defense better to some capacity at the very least. And that's who I've got with them. But I do hope they listen to you so that he can be available for my team.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think that Carolina is kind of one of those teams that's right in the middle where they just need to add talent. And I just have them going freak athlete, Kenyon Sadiq talent, but adding corner talent I think would help this team. They were 8-9 and snuck into the playoffs, and then they added a bunch of free agents, right? They added that edge rusher from Philly, and then they added Devin Lloyd, who we've been talking about earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Jalen Phillips is who I'm talking about, right? So they're doing it in free agency. So, and the fact that their additions in free agency were mostly defense means that I think they want to address offense in the draft. And I know you said you already agree with this analysis. I'm just providing more color to why I chose Kenyon Sadiq going here. And I think a lot of this discussion and a lot of the reason why when we did our mock draft on the night of the draft last year, Tyler and I's minds together got the first 8 players, not necessarily player to team combos, but players.
There were some trades.
Because there were some trades, but the player that was supposed to go at 3 for us went at 3. And so I think that, when we get together and we talk like this and both of us agree on something, it's very possible that that's going to happen. So maybe Kenyon Sadiq is someone that you should start watching film on if you're from one of the Carolinas.
I feel like tight end is such an underrated position that someone like Kenyon Sadiq could very easily fall to 19. And then in like a hypothetical redraft, he should have gone like 5 type of situation. He's going to be so good if he lives up to the potential that he's absolutely going to be, in my opinion, one of the best 15 players to come out of this year's draft.
Sure. And the same thing happens every year. Like, do you think that teams wouldn't have selected Sam Laporta higher than the second round or would have selected Sam Laporta when he came out in 2020? I believe they would. He fell all the way to the second. And the Lions just picked him up, and he was immediately rookie of the year and, a Pro Bowl caliber tight end. And I feel like, and who can block? Sadiq, not that long ago, a guy very similar to Sadiq who lacked production. Kenyon Sadiq lacks the production that this other guy had. Kyle Pitts, we've already talked about, went very early in the draft. So it's clear that these guys have a role in the NFL. It's just a matter of where do you take a tight end when all these other high-value positions are getting addressed in the first round, like edge, tackle, corner, So I think that they finally pull the trigger and they select this because they don't really have a dynamic tight end at all. I don't think they have that.
And you mentioned Kyle Pitts specifically. The Falcons are our last team on this list. I apologize to my Falcons fan friend who has been waiting all episode long for us to cover his team, but they don't have a first-round pick. So what are they going to do, Zach? What is happening in the ATL?
Yeah, it's tough because, once again, they traded away their first-round pick, right, for James Pierce Jr., which it's not getting any better for you, Noah. I apologize because James Pierce Jr. may not even play a down this season. He may get suspended due to, what happened this offseason. Won't get into that. But I bet they're wishing they had that first rounder back. But they pick inside the top 50 once again. I believe they're at 48. And I think that they're going to go defense. I think they need to go front seven. They need to continue addressing their front seven because their offensive playmakers are really good. It's probably top 2 running back in football and Bijan. Drake London is excellent when he can stay healthy. They addressed quarterback already by signing Tua to take the reins while Michael Penix Jr. is recovering. I think they have a great offensive line. Maybe some weaknesses in pass protection, but they have a solid offensive line that I don't think that they're going to address at pick 48. I think that they're going to go with Caden McDonald, a defensive tackle out of Ohio State, because they were 23rd at 48. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know. Is that their pick? Am I getting that right?
Well, you're right. I apologize for interrupting. I'll tell you why I made that comment in just a moment. Go ahead.
Gotcha. Yeah, I just think that Caden McDonald will help their bottom half run defense be better next year. And I think this is right around the time where you can still find really talented run-stopping defensive tackles because they're not high value enough to go in the first round. So this is kind of how you get first-round value or blue chip value out of those second-round picks. And I think that's what Atlanta's going to do.
I like them going defense. I think it's almost a given that they'll go defense that second round. The reason that I wanted you to specify 48 is because I don't know if I missed them. I personally have Caden McDonald going in the first round.
Wow.
I have him going at pick 20 to Dallas. It might be a reach, but I don't think McDonald's going to be available at 48. Maybe doesn't go in the first round, but I just don't think he's going to be available at 48. Someone that I think could potentially be there, however, is Lee Hunter out of Texas Tech, possibly Christian Miller out of Georgia. He's the one that I think can be early second round, maybe late first round, but could possibly be available at 48 too. Any of those two guys, those are both interior defensive linemen as well.
Yeah, no, I don't
think disagree. Position at least.
Yeah, right. And Caden McDonald's certainly on the rise, according to Daniel Jeremiah, who I do often look at his top 50 picks. And so if he is gone, which is very possible, I mean, Caden McDonald has moved 6 spots up on Daniel Jeremiah's list to number 33 prospect. So he's currently the best non-first round pick in Daniel Jeremiah's rankings. So you might be right. And there might be another team, a la Kansas City, that has a pick at 40 that could address what is a very weak position for them by selecting Caden McDonald if he somehow falls out of the first round, which you don't have him doing. I just think that there's a lot of interesting talent available in those first 40 picks to where we could see maybe those interior defensive linemen slowly slip back and back and back. There's like 5 corners that everyone loves. There's like 10 edge rushers and 15 tackles that everyone loves. That nobody's really talking about the interior defensive linemen, where maybe we could see McDonald, but Lee Hunter is a great backup if McDonald isn't there.